to Sharing Hope, and we have the pleasure of having Robbie Baxter, author of The Membership Economy and our latest book, The Forever Transaction, that just came out in April, that we highly recommend. And we asked Robbie to join us for a quick conversation about the membership economy, the membership transaction. And so, Robbie, welcome to Sharing Hope.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. It's our pleasure. And really, why don't we just jump in? You have a really interesting story that I'd love for you to share with our audience about the book, The Membership Economy. How in the world did you end up writing the book, and give us sort of an inside look to what happened?
Yeah, so I've been an independent consultant for about 20 years. And if you want to be successful as a consultant, you really need to have an area of subject matter expertise or functional expertise that allows you to build a brand that attracts people to you, prospective clients. And I had been doing some work with Netflix. Netflix was actually my fifth client. And I just fell in love with their business model. I loved it as a new mom. 3 DVDs out at a time, and you always have something to watch if you're up in the middle of the night. I loved that. But I also loved it as a business person because I was like, wow, they're getting recurring revenue, and their operations are so smooth, and they seem to be able to anticipate what next piece of content I'm going to want. And when I started working with them, I saw that they had everything focused around doing one thing, one promise that they made to their customer, which is, I would describe it as professionally created catalog of video content delivered with cost certainty, no late fees, in the most efficient way possible, which, 20 years ago was 3 DVDs out at a time and someone else's content, and today is streaming their own content, but it's still that same promise. And I started to see first of all, people started calling me and saying, hey, we want to be the Netflix of our business. We heard you worked with Netflix. Can you come help us do the Netflix thing? And I worked with Intuit, PayCycle, which is part of Intuit. I worked with SurveyMonkey. I worked with a lot of software as a service companies. I'm based in California, so that's what's mostly around me. And what I was finding was these ideas were applicable everywhere. I was starting to develop a framework around this massive transformation that I saw happening, where companies were moving from anonymous to known relationships, from single payments to recurring revenue payments, from ownership to access, from one-way communication where we yell in our loudspeakers and hope you listen, to not just two-way communication, but connections among customers under the brand of the organization, and how that created more value. And I thought, wow, this is so powerful. This could be relevant for any kind of business. But other people weren't seeing what I was seeing. And that's why I wrote The Membership Economy, to say, look, this is a trend. It can be useful for anyone. And look at all the value it brings to you and to the people you serve. And by the way, this is relevant for startups. This is relevant for big companies. It's relevant for digital natives. It's relevant for for-profit corporations, but it's also relevant for nonprofits, for associations and churches and trade guilds. Any organization that depends on the long-term relationship to survive can use these principles to build deeper relationships and justify recurring revenue. And so I wrote Membership Economy to just make my case. And now 5 years later, everybody gets it. Everybody's doing the subscription thing, right? You can subscribe to Burger King for your coffee. You can subscribe to Caterpillar for your crane. You can subscribe to, virtually, any kind of content, any kind of service. So now the question is, how do we do it? And how do we do it ethically? And how do we do it in a way that justifies that recurring revenue on an ongoing basis?
Yeah. And so, how do we justify it? I mean, you have people coming to you all the time wanting to do it. And what do you tell them?
I tell them that they have to start with a forever promise. So you have to take a step back. If you want to have a membership business, if you want to have a membership organization, if you want people to come and stay for a long time, you have to promise them that you're going to deliver on some kind of goal that they want to achieve forever, or solve some kind of problem that they're going to continually want to solve for. And if you can do that, then you as an organization become much more flexible about iterating on how you deliver that value. So like with Netflix, it was DVDs and now it's streaming, but it's the same value. With newspapers, it was print and now it's digital, but it's the same promise, which is, in news organizations, it's something like helping a certain kind of person understand the world around them so they can make better decisions, right? There's nothing in that promise about it being on newsprint, right? There's actually nothing about it being news. It could be, if I want to help you understand the world around you, I could give you a class, I could give you coaching, I could set up a group of like-minded people where we help each other. So this concept really frees you up, this forever promise, to continue to evolve your offerings around these unchanging needs. Use new ways to deliver. And that's what really justifies forever.
Customers and focus. So I'm sure you have a lot of people come to you and they say, hey, we're really focused on our customers. We think a membership economy will work. I mean, we really get our customers. How many, on just a general basis, can you speak to, are there misperceptions on organizations on the fact they think they get their customer when they don't?
Yes. And there's a couple of places where I see this. So one of them is a lot of organizations start out as mission driven, as having this forever promise. And then this is especially true for long-standing organizations like, religious institutions, professional societies, gyms, news organizations. They have that promise to start with. And at that moment when they start, they say, what's the best way to deliver that value? And they come up with products. We'll have a conference. We'll have a training program. We'll have a printed newsletter. And then what happens is they kind of calcify around the products instead of staying nimble around the member. And what happens is you have people in the organization that are like, well, we're the conference team and we're the learning team. And what ends up happening is it stops being relevant to tomorrow's members. So people don't want to join. And you can tell, I can tell when I walk into an organization, nobody is going to say we're not customer centric, by the way. Nobody is going to say, I have yet to meet a company that's like, we don't really care about our customers at all. We don't care about them at all. We don't think about them at all. But you can tell when you look at an organization, for example, if you look on the walls of the organization, do they have hero shots of the products or do they have hero shots of the customers, right? That's just a really simple thing. What are the metrics that the organization uses to judge success? A lot of organizations I think of as quarterly capitalists, where the number they care about is the quarterly revenue number, and it doesn't matter how we get it. If we have to slap in some fees that maybe our customers don't see so we hit our number, so be it. That's a sales-oriented business, a revenue-oriented business. Product-oriented businesses, they love the products that they create. And, if the customer doesn't like it, it's because the customer is too stupid to realize the value of the wonderful product. I worked in the bike industry for a while. I had a client, the BPSA, the Bicycle Product Suppliers Association, and I did a research project with a colleague of mine who's a professor at University of Chicago. And one of the things we learned about the bike industry is that most people in the bike industry are bike enthusiasts. They're kind of old white guys who have 12 bikes in their garage, right? A bike for rainy days, a bike for, concrete, a bike for dirt, a bike for mud. And that's who they wanted. That's who it was fun to design for. But when, a mom comes in and is like, okay, I have a lot of money in my hot little hand and I need one of the bikes to be pink and I need one of the bikes to have a basket for when I go to the farmer's market, that's not who they wanted to serve, right? They wanted to talk to other bike guys. And so, I can tell right away if the organization is really focused around serving the customer's need and if they know who that customer is. Yeah, it's pretty obvious when you start asking a few questions.
It's obvious when I listen to you talk about it. In fact, I'm taking I'm taking notes. I'm gonna have to look at our walls. When you when you have those conversations around customer and you engage organizations, what do you find to be the biggest challenge for them to really put the customer first?
Yeah, well, they often have, when they sort of two problems I see. So one problem is they describe the customer in terms of demographics. Our ideal customer is a male, 45 to 62, with an income of, $42,000 in their family, right? You can't recognize that person. And of course, those people, we could probably all think of two people who fit those criteria who are completely different in terms of how they would use whatever product you choose, whether it's, ice cream or clothing or consulting services. So that's one problem, is that when they think that they know who their best member is, what they really mean is they have some general demographics. The other thing is they say, well, all people are our customers, right? You have some little tiny organization and they're telling you that they can serve everybody equally. And I always try to encourage them to say, but who is it that if you were sitting next to them on a plane and you had 45 minutes to chat them up about your business, you're 100% confident that they would get what you were talking about, they would buy it on the spot, and they would stay for a long time and be very grateful that they met you, right? Do you know who is that person you want in that airplane seat next to you? What are their, and a lot of people can't tell you. I always think of the example of, if I walked into McDonald's in my fanciest gown with my husband and I said, please show us to your finest table. Money is no object. It's our 25th anniversary, and make us something special and bring us a bottle of your finest champagne, right? They wouldn't feel bad that they can't serve a customer. They would say, we're not, if they were being nice and generous, they'd say, we're not really in the business of doing, special fancy celebrations, but down the street, there's a lovely little bistro, which might be just what you want. Because they know who their best customer is, right? You go to McDonald's because you're in a hurry, because you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of cash. You want something predictable. You want the hamburger exactly the way you know it's going to taste. You don't want something special. And I think a lot of companies try to be all things to all people because they're like, well, remember that time that couple came in for their 25th anniversary? We didn't have anything for them. Maybe we should add some lobster to our menu and get a liquor license so we can serve champagne. So I think those are probably the two biggest issues around getting to know your customer, is one being narrow enough and the other one is being precise enough.
That's good. That's good, Robbie. Great advice. Well, listen, can you just share with our audience, if they wanted the membership economy or the forever transaction, where do they find it? And then also, if they're intrigued by this conversation and want to have maybe a discussion with Robbie Baxter, how do they find you?
Yeah, so the books, Membership Economy and Forever Transaction, are available pretty much anywhere books are sold. Amazon, they're in Kindle and Audible, so you can listen, you can read on your phone. Barnes and Noble, any indie bookstore, so support your local bookstores. They need it more than ever. And you can find me, Robbie Kellman Baxter, which is my full name, RobbieKellmanBaxter.com. And if you do that and do /audience, RobbieKellmanBaxter.com/audience, I have some goodies too, where you can get a copy of the Forever Transaction. You can get my membership manifesto, which explains why membership is so powerful. And I have some process visuals, some slides that can help you kind of understand some of the bigger ideas. That's
awesome. Hey, thank you so much for taking a little time out of your day. We really enjoyed it. And
yeah, me too.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday afternoon. Thank you.